Hey folks, Jim Wallace here, Executive Director of Gun Owners Action League, and I am with...
Mike Harris, Director of Public Policy for Gun Owners Action League.
And we call him the Gadget Guy now because what you're seeing is from our brand new studio here at our brand new GOAL office in Westboro, Mass. And Mike the Gadget Guy pretty much set this all up, a little help from Carrie Ann O'Clair. This is our first video from here.
In the studio, yeah.
See?
It's pretty cool.
There you go.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So hopefully the plugs are all grounded correctly and we make it through this.
We won't get electrocuted in here.
Yeah. So, nice. There's always that chance, but you never know. Anyway, we wanted to get together in our new studio and actually just kind of let you know what the heck's going on. It has been such a phenomenally tough year for the 2A community in Massachusetts, but I got to tell you, Mike, I always say it's hard for me to use the word proud because it just kind of sets the tone that I even can be in that position, but amazingly proud of how the 2A community has reacted to this attack from Speaker Mariano and Chairman Day over the last, it's a little over 12 months now, right?
Yeah, it's been a year and a month at this point.
Yeah, since the bill dropped, because the bill dropped, what, in June?
Yeah.
Late June. But even that, before that, the listening tour that happened with somebody had their fingers in their ears and didn't listen to a darn thing we said. But, still
they only had the finger in the air when we were talking.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the news is there isn't any news. We haven't heard a peep out of this. The bill's been in conference committee for how long now? A month and a half, at least, something like that.
I thought it was in March.
Maybe,
wasn't it?
maybe. I'm getting old. But they are very tight-lipped, as you probably know by now. We've tried to educate our members and supporters that anything that happens in a conference committee is absolutely done in secret. No public is allowed to even attend their meetings. They actually try to have a faux meeting right at the very first beginning.
One,
to show we're an open process here. Yeah, and then they went into executive session for the next couple of months.
The literal next meeting.
Yeah,
and and it's hard to get information out of the members of those conference committees, and not to talk bad about any specific person on the committee, but. They all want to get on the next conference committee, so it's hard to get information out of them when they're
they're supposed to keep it secret.
Exactly.
We totally don't agree with that. I don't even agree with a lot of secret stuff that happens behind closed doors up at the State House. But unfortunately, that's the new COVID world. Although the secrecy of conference committees has been around for, gosh, as long as I've been around here.
Right. But I think it's especially offensive this time because, ostensibly the reason why they go into executive session for conference committees is because the public process has already taken place. But this time, if you check out our website, processmatters.org, you'll see that that's not completely the case this time.
Well, when you eviscerate civil rights, there's still a process. It's just not the process that we want to see as citizens, right? Yeah. So, it's kind of interesting. But we are still talking to all the conferees and their staff, giving them language that we wrote that would actually do what they're trying to do by leaving us alone and going after the bad people. I will tell you I was horrified at one point, and I won't name names, but in a discussion Mike and I had up there, we were actually told, we don't think we can separate the good guys from the bad guys in legislation. And I thought Mike was going to fall off his four-wheel chair and have a stroke. I've already had a heart attack, so it didn't bother me a bit. But it's just amazing how the thought process is up there, that it's not possible to separate the good from the bad because we do it all the time when we write legislation. So
exactly,
it's kind of sad, but we will continue to obviously monitor and talk and keep in communication with people up there. We've got, what now, Mike, left? What, 15 days, 16 days?
It's the 10th, so we have 20 what is it, 31 days in July?
Math, not a strong point, kids.
We'll make sure.
Actually, I'm good at math. I just don't keep track of what day it is.
Yeah, we have 21 days left.
Yeah.
And so that's you know, given the marathon they always do at the end of session, it'll probably be, so it's the 10th now, it's a Wednesday, so the House is usually in on Thursday, so we got 1, 2,
yeah.
We got about 2, probably 5 more days of actual formal session left.
I've said for years, and I've been doing this 25 years now, there's more legislation passed in the last 72 hours than there is in the last year and a half. And I'm not upset with that.
That's fine.
As a matter of fact, Mike and I always get, not always, but we get stuff from our members and supporters. You know, they're supposed to be full-time. They need to be in there every day. Oh, my God, no.
You don't know what you're asking for. I always say the biggest curse the Founding Fathers left us with was a full-time legislature.
That's the last thing you want.
Yeah.
Because if they're in there every day doing a formal session, they're going to have to justify the time that they're there, and they're going to do stuff you don't want them to do.
It's the most dangerous make-work job in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people, too, have said since this started, you know, stop this kind of political fight and just sue them. Well, unfortunately, folks, you can't sue an idea.
Right.
And pretty much that's what legislation is. So sadly, we have to wait until, number one, it passes into law.
Right.
And then even sometimes after that, you have to wait until somebody has been harmed by the law.
Exactly, to get standing to challenge.
Mike's behind bars because he has the wrong gun now. Send lawyers guns and money, and we can supply at least 2 out of 3 of those.
2 out of 3.
So it's critical that we be prepared. Now, a lot of folks have said, well, what are you doing to prepare? Well, first rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. But I will tell you this. We have a very reputable law firm that does federal cases sitting in the wings. They are prepared. We've been in communication with them. We obviously can't draft a complaint out because we have no idea what will pass, if anything passes.
Yeah, I mean, we can't draft a complaint about that law, yeah. And plus, I mean, it's going to be, what, 32 different cases at this point?
Yeah, at least. So, you know, the federal judge is going to look at this ream of paper in front of them. So, but anyway, we are prepared. We're ready to rock as soon as anything bad happens, if it happens. So we will be ready to file a federal case as soon as the ink is put to this thing, pretty much. So we'll tell you, though, you know, we announced a little while back that GOAL was shifting gears a little bit, and we were going to get involved in basically legal action, court action, litigation, whatever you want to call it. And obviously we're preparing for whatever happens with this bill. But Mike's got some information on cases out of Lowell, right?
Yeah, so Commonwealth v. Donnell. I think everybody has probably heard of this and is, you know, putting the name Justice Coffee in their prayer list for, you know, whatever holiday's coming up. Yeah. But yeah, it was the out-of-state carry case where the New Hampshire gentleman was caught with a gun on him during a DUI stop. And the Lowell District Court exonerated him on that particular charge using Bruin. So we're, I don't know if you want to talk about what we're doing moving forward, but we're partnering up with the NRA.
Well, not necessarily that, but yeah, we are preparing, matter of fact, the same firm that's getting ready in case something bad happens with this bill. We are using them to write what's called a friend of the court brief.
Yep, an amicus brief.
An amicus brief.
Yeah, it's literally called a friend of the court brief. And the way you can explain it is it's really it's an outside expert's opinion on the case to supply information to the court to help them better decide their decision.
Because what has happened, which normally happens in Massachusetts, since again I've been around, is that if there's a good 2A case where our folks win at the district court, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court will reach down, grab that case, pull it up as fast as they can, so it doesn't even go through the appellate process. And normally they do that so they can kill it. They've done that with so many other cases. So what we're preparing to do is file a brief to give our opinion on the case. That's about as much as we can do at this point.
With the SJC.
Right, with the SJC. And our point of view is going to be, you cannot prosecute somebody who's exercising a civil right just because they don't have a license.
Right.
And I've always been, a lot of our folks too, Massachusetts, why don't you just, enforce Bartley-Fox, the 1-year mandatory minimum? No. As far as I'm concerned, you cannot imprison somebody for exercising a civil right without a permit. Now, if you're a prohibited person by statute and you're in possession, that's a different story. But if you're a lawful citizen and you just happen to be exercising your civil rights, I don't know, maybe a civil fine at the most, but not prison time.
I mean, it's...
because now you're a prohibited person. It ruins the rest of your life. So that's pretty much what we're going to say in our brief.
Yep.
The other piece is how difficult it is to get a temporary license.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to add on, just ancillary to the primary focus of the Amicus Brief is going to be the fact that the temporary LTC is it's such an arduous process at the beginning, especially if you live far away from Massachusetts, because you have to come for an initial interview in person to Chelsea. It's $100 every year. It only lasts a calendar year. And now with the overload we're seeing on FRB's shoulders, the Firearms Records Bureau, we're seeing delays out almost 6 months to a year at this point. So we have folks going, since it only lasts a calendar year from January through December, for everyone, no matter when you file for a renewal or an application, we're seeing people who might need their firearms license to do business in Massachusetts, like trainers and things like that, having to wait an entire year or 6 months
it's only good
to
for a calendar year, not 12 months. So you may not get it until October, and then 2 months later you got to start this all over again.
Yeah, and
it's $100.
Exactly. Yep, and it's $100 every year, and not to pile on FRB or to call them a bad agency or anything, or even to give EOPS a hard time out in front. This may not even be malicious. It could just be the fact that they've set up a system that was so difficult for them to follow through on that a case like this could call into question the entire process itself and cause some sort of an overhaul that could help us out.
So what you do is you line up cases. Even though this is just an amicus brief, it puts us on the record of what we believe is wrong with the system. Well, we believe pretty much the whole system is wrong, but you got to start somewhere, right?
Right.
So the other thing with legal cases too, I wanted to address, because we get this all the time. Why isn't GOAL filing an assault weapons ban, court case? We did in 2016 when Maura Healey pulled her garbage. We in the NRA, thank God for the NRA funding the case, made it all the way through the federal court system to the Supreme Court. They refused to hear the case, and as many of you know by now, they don't have to take a case. You can spend $500,000, $1 million getting through the system to get to the Supreme Court, and they just say, no thanks.
Exactly. I mean, they review everything that comes to them, and them not taking a case is essentially them giving an opinion on a case.
Yeah.
So,
it's just an opinion. So there are already, why don't you try again because we have a better court? There are, 4 or 5 cases around the country already way up into the chain. It would be a complete waste of money and resources for us to file another one here. Right. Our best bet right now is to wait and see what happens with these cases, because you got California, Illinois, Maryland, Jersey has something. So rather than redo it, because these cases, and Mike can explain better, had already kind of made it up to the Supreme Court level. And then after Bruin, they were, what do you call it, GVR'd?
GVR'd, yep.
Yeah.
Granted, which just means it's granted cert, vacated and remanded. So they vacated they granted cert, essentially just quickly reviewed it, vacated the decision of the lower court, and remanded it back down to the lower court to decide on the case using the new standard of review, which is text, history, and tradition.
Right.
That comes out of the Bruin case. So it's the Bruin standard of review for Second Amendment cases.
Yeah, and the fact that they're not supposed to ban guns in common use. Well, since the AR-15 is a little bit popular.
The most popular rifle in the history of the country.
there's a little problem there. So we cannot spend resources redoing when all of these other cases are so far up the chain already. It's a waste of money. And anybody who tells you different simply doesn't understand the strategy of these things. So we have to use your resources that you give us wisely, not just waste them. Yeah, we could file a lawsuit tomorrow and do what some other groups do just to raise money, but guess what? It's going to be a waste of resources, and that's not what we're here to do. So
and plus with a lot of these things, you only get so many bites of the apple.
Right.
Towards challenging these types of issues with with the system of law we have, the English common law system, precedents building on precedents. It's you only get so many chances to make a first impression.
Yeah, I've been told that before. So also, as far as litigation goes, folks, we do not have the resources. I don't think any organization does, not even the NRA or GOA or anybody, to take on individual cases like licensing cases. Can't do it. We don't have the resources for that. And frankly, in Massachusetts,
we'll refer you to a good attorney who can help you out.
That's right.
We got those.
But it's going to be costly. And it's kind of interesting, too, because we get complaints that, well, GOAL won't take my case. I went to an attorney and it was costing too much. There you go. So, but it's also in Massachusetts.
We don't get a discount just for being nice guys.
No. But also in Mass, it's a whack-a-mole. Yeah. So our goal is to address the system as a whole. We need to take cases on that are going to affect the most citizens possible, rather than just, well, we won a license case in Springfield, and then we won a case here. Well, we just spent $25,000 and got 2 people that are licensed.
Yeah, and
it's great for those 2 people, but
and plus a lot of that is so once you're granted relief and you're no longer in a damaged situation, like your case is moot. You lose your standing. So if you get a delay on your license and you sue the state over that, and in the meantime you get your license, even though it's not timely, you're essentially looked at by the court as being granted your relief. So you lose your standing to continue to challenge that case based upon the fact that there's no more damages. Your case is now moot. So that's another risk that we have, and that's the whole, and that's part of the whole whack-a-mole analogy. Is once we get this done, we get this done, we get this done, and we rarely get a chance to follow these types of cases all the way up through the process and make a a really precedential type of challenge.
Yep.
Which is what we really need to look for. So that's why we kind of have to triage those things.
The other thing, frankly, too, is trying to find the right plaintiff. Mike will tell you that a lot of people, I'll be a plaintiff, and then you vet them, check out their background. Yeah. Thank you, but no. It's like...
Yeah. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, though, because the folks who keep their nose clean for their whole lives rarely end up in court. So it's kind of... that's a tough one to kind of voir dire out. But, you have to take your plaintiff as you find them, I guess. I mean, which is, the case in Rahimi. And even in the Donnell case, I mean, he was stopped... They didn't find the firearm, or they wouldn't have found the firearm if he wasn't stopped for a DUI. So, in the grand scheme of things, you have to kind of overlook certain aspects of cases in order to get them moving. But we do need to be careful about certain other aspects of cases.
A famous story here at the office is a gentleman that continued to call. You got to take my case. Right. But he wouldn't tell me what he did wrong. And finally I just said, listen, I'm not taking your calls anymore. And he said, well, that's just it. None of it was my fault. There's a clue. And he had 3 separate, over the course of, 5 years, assault and batteries against a police officer. But none of them were his fault. I'm sorry. That's not a case you're going to take to federal court to get your license. It's just not going to happen. I know instances... things happen, but Not 3 times like that. Sorry.
Yeah.
So anyway, we, as you probably know by now too, we're setting up a new database, web system, everything.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll get that done by August maybe. But we've already started to set up a GOAL legal action page on the new website. So when that launches, Mike will get all the information up there of all the cases that we're either initiating ourselves or supporting. Because sometimes probably we don't get the message out enough. We will spend money to join a brief of other people to an important federal case. We've done that in
Maryland.
Yeah, we've done that in a ton of federal cases. Probably haven't done a good job, letting you all know that, but we will start listing all of those things as we do them.
Yes.
Matter of fact, pretty much every assault weapon case that has been remanded back down from the High Court, we've been involved in at some point and have used financial resources to support those cases.
Mm-hmm. And I mean it's a little bit hard to track some of that stuff sometimes when everybody in the 2A community is suing Merrick Garland. It's kind of it's hard to keep track sometimes. But yeah I mean we'll have a lot more of that stuff up. I have a running list of cases and statuses going right now. That I've been working on for a couple of months. So once that's all ready to go, we can have that up. And maybe we can get Angie in front of the camera to explain the new membership stuff.
Okay.
She'll hate that.
Good luck with that. A good for instance, as far as, why does a GOAL do X? It's like the approved firearms roster, the Attorney General's regulations. Right. There's already a case.
California?
Yeah, FPC, right?
Yep, FPC.
So,
they're doing the magazine case for us, too.
And they filed that a long time ago.
A long time ago.
So,
and I think oral arguments on the magazine case were last July.
Long time ago. But that's the other thing, too, is that even if you're successful, it could be anywhere from 2 to 5 years before you actually see a remedy. And that's one of the problems with these folks that say, well, just don't comply. Well, here's the problem. You're going to sit in prison maybe for 2 years, hoping the Supreme Court's going to take this case after we spend $500,000 million to get it there, but you're sitting in jail the whole time waiting because they're not going to release you. No.
And then even if it is struck down through a challenge, it then takes an action on your part to appeal under that new standard from prison.
Yeah.
And that's one of the more, if I can kind of get a little off track, is one of the more immoral aspects of 4420 or 4139 to me, is in order to get standing in some of these portions of
4420, 4135, 4139, or 4139.2.
I know, right? I think it finally ended up at 4139. Yeah, but one of the more immoral aspects of it is the fact that some of these items we won't be able to challenge unless somebody ends up in jail.
Right,
and that's
or at least charged.
Yeah, or charged with a crime. I mean, it's.
Yep. So a lot going on. I know it's the middle of summer. It's a little warm outside.
The humidity, brutal.
But yeah, we're doing great in our new office here. Someday if you're around, stop by, check it out. It's pretty awesome. Right over there a little bit is a 23 by 17 foot classroom now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That John Green is in charge of, and he's going to love his classroom.
Carrie Ann and I are going to do another walkthrough video tomorrow.
Oh, cool!
So we'll get that out too. So we'll have the first one we did was it was unscripted, so we were like, we kind of need to do that again.
Yep.
So we'll have one of those. We'll have a walkthrough for you. You can take a look and see the new office. And
Carrie Ann's done a phenomenal job at outreach, getting the clubs reconnected with GOAL, because we've been so busy with this bill over the last year and a half that kind of went by the wayside, but she has reestablished contacts with a lot of clubs. And if you've had the pleasure of talking or communicating with Carrie Ann, she's a little tenacious.
The Energizer Bunny.
The Energizer Bunny. She's a little tenacious in a friendly way, but she's
awesome.
tenacious. That's awesome. We're glad to have her on the team. We needed help last year, and she was plug and play, I guess you'd call it. Had to come up to speed in a lot of the way that we do things, but you know, she was absolute two-way.
Hit the ground running.
Absolutely. Well, running so fast she tore her shoes off probably, but that's all right. So anyway, folks, I'm glad you joined us for our first time. You know, this was typically, you know, when I do these, I have a script that I'm reading because I don't want to miss telling you anything. This is more casual. Maybe you like this a little bit better. I know I do.
We'll try doing these a little more.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for your support for Gun Owners Action League. Thanks for your support in the 2A community. This fight is not over. Don't think it is. And we have
election season coming up. It's just starting at this point.
Just starting. Because next time we're going to talk to you about, if this thing passes, how we're going to make them own this.
Yep.
Folks, Jim Wallace.
Mike Harris.
We'll see you later.